In the exercise just given, you use the belief in effective change in any given area and then allow your imagination freedom along those directed lines. Such an exercise automatically does even more, opening up the window of perception and letting in the knowledge and experience of other portions of the self. As this light and energy flows through, it will be tinted or colored by your own psychological reality, as the rays of the sun are through colored glass. This simply means that the other dimensional information will often appear in ordinary guise, through an intuitive hunch, a sudden ideal, or some solution that has already occurred to you but had not been acted upon. Your cell's multidimensional knowledge is usually not consciously available, nor can they put it into psychological terms for you. Such work with the imagination acts as a trigger, however, drawing information to you from other levels of your greater reality, and concentrating it on the specific problem at hand. It will then appear in terms understandable to your own experience. In itself, such an exercise creatively alters probabilities, for you no longer live with the problem as an unchanging concrete reality. This is a psychological and psychic impetus, altering the messages that you habitually send to your body and to its cellular construction. You are then creatively manipulating in several layers of experience. Take, for example, the two instances just given. The older person, imagining youth, will, during such an exercise, reactivate certain hormonal and chemical changes, becoming younger, and the woman who feels rejected does the same thing when imagining herself loved. Such practice also activates within the self all of its... I'm sorry, I had to use a different website to get this, and my old one just seemed to have disappeared, and this one has these crazy advertisements to the side. So I'm sorry about that. I will continue. Such practice also activates within the self all of its unconscious but quite valid experiences, drawing out similar episodes on the part of other simultaneous lives. In one existence, the old person is young. The unloved woman is indeed beloved. These unconscious realities become turned on through the use of the imagination. Each day is a window into each life. Now I'm going to skip down. We're chapter 20. The dream landscape, the physical world, probabilities, and your daily experience. Now, give us a moment. Chapter 20. The dream landscape, the physical world, probabilities, and your daily experience. Because you are physical creatures, even your dreams must be translated through the reality of your flesh. In mass and through the methods I have described, you help form a physical reality in which, however, each experience is unique, period. In the same way, each of you form an overall dream world in which there is some general agreement, but in which each experience is original. The dream world has its reaches as a physical one does. In waking reality, beliefs take time before their materialization is apparent. From infinite probable acts, only one can be physically experienced as a rule, period. The dream world operates as a creative situation in which probable acts are instantly materialized, laid out in actual or symbolic form. From these you then choose the most appropriate for physical expression. There are other important reasons for dreaming, but here we will confine ourselves to this particular issue and to the dream landscape itself, period. I hope you enjoy the punctuation. It's like comma and period. I've been reading them, but as the words. Okay. It is only because you seem to expect dream experiences to be like daily life that you find so many dreams chaotic. Normally, a tree does not change into a peacock, for example. If you remember such a dream, event, it seems meaningless in the morning. Now that is enough. We will end our session. And that was a short one. Okay, next session, 670. Good evening. Good evening, Seth. To begin with dictation. Your moods and emotions have greater mobility in the dream state. You may feel rooted like a tree at one moment, and in the next experience yourself as a beautiful peacock, in which case you will perceive the tree change into the bird. Disconnected from their usual daily attraction to physical events, your emotions will often form their own landscapes, utilizing dreams as their creative medium. I have explained the greater correlation that exists between your feelings and beliefs and physical conditions, such as weather. In somewhat the same way, you have a part to play individually in the creation of the dream landscape. It is also the result of your feelings and beliefs on a different level, and while it is not perceivable in physical terms, laid out with its mountains and continents as your planet is, to be examined by your instruments, it exists in terms quite as valid. This does not mean that dreams can be deciphered by the use of any given general symbols. As you create and experience your daily life through your personal feelings and beliefs, so the same applies to dream reality. There, however, your thoughts and feelings become instantly alive, springing up one upon another, coming full-blown, as it were. The dream world exists in terms of energy also, of course, but simply at ranges that are not physically obvious. Much of your interior creative work and planning is done at this level. There must be some differentiation between dream and waking experience, just so that you can manipulate in the more narrowly focused daily life. However, there is no great reason for the vast separation that now exists between your waking and sleeping lives. As I mentioned earlier, the division is largely the result of your mass and private beliefs in the nature of reality, and in the habits the race has acquired by separating objective data from subjective. When you are determined to manipulate your environment, then you separate yourself from it. Since you are part of it, this also leads you to try to place yourself apart from your own subjective reality. It is quite possible to take your normally conscious I into the dream state to your advantage. When you do this, you will see that the dreaming I and the waking I are one, but operating in entirely different environments. Therefore, you become familiar with depths of experience and knowledge unknown to you before. You acquire a true flexibility and expanded awareness of your own being, and open channels of communication between your waking and dreaming realities. This means that you are far better able to utilize unconscious knowledge and also to acquaint the unconscious with your present physical situation. Such a procedure can bring you in contact with wisdom you have been denying yourself, help unify your entire life situation, and release your energy for practical everyday purposes. Even the decision to try such a venture is beneficial, since it automatically presupposes a flexibility of attitude on the part of the conscious self. If you are afraid of your dreams, you are afraid of yourself. As your present situation with all of its challenges, joys, and problems is contained in condensed form within each of your days, so the same applies to your life. Each night's dreams, then, provide you with a rich bed of creativity. Spread out before you in great profusion, you will find not only any problems, but their solutions. Now, in physical terms, it may take some time before your conscious mind accepts or recognizes a diagnosis given in a dream. It may come to you later in altered form as a hunch or a sudden intuition or an urge for action. If you do not trust yourself, you may ignore such impetuses and not take advantage of the answers. The enlightened conscious mind is always alert for such messages. You can also go steps beyond this into the dream condition itself, requesting certain dreams, certain solutions, and therefore shortening the time, so to speak, that may be involved otherwise. Generally speaking, if you do not believe that you can become conscious in the dream state, then that feat will be relatively impossible. It will go against your ideal of reality, thereby preventing the opening and acceptance that is necessary. While your beliefs do structure much of your dream activity, other issues are also involved simply because the focus of your awareness is not accurately directed toward physical reality, but is only opaquely concerned with it. I think that word is acutely. I'll read that again. While your beliefs do structure much of your dream activity, other issues are also involved simply because the focus of your awareness is not acutely directed toward physical reality, but is only opaquely concerned with it. Once again, thoughts and ideas have their own electromagnetic validity also. In waking life, you test your ideas in the world of facts. Facts are only accepted fiction, of course, but the ideas must make sense and fit into the accepted story. In the dream state, you allow yourself greater freedom, trying out certain ideas and beliefs in this more plastic framework. You may therefore accept new beliefs initially in the dream state, and the intellectual or emotional realization may only come later. In dreaming, the conscious mind itself is far more lenient and playful. It can afford this greater permissiveness because it well knows that it need not immediately test out theory in the daily context. It very willingly looks inward toward those areas of the inner self's experience to see what it can find for its own use, quite like an explorer searching for resources in virgin territory. The earth-tuned consciousness must deal with the space-time context, for only inside this framework can it clearly perceive events. In the dream state, consciousness ignores space-time relationships to a large degree, and yet it is still firmly based upon the body's corporal mechanism. Dreams, then, are physically experienced. Dreams, then, are physically experienced. You perceive yourself running, talking, eating, in quite physical activities, except that they are not performed by the body that lies on the bed. The orientation is that of a sense data lived most vividly, and yet, again, at an opaque angle. In other words, in most dreams, data is still being received and interpreted in the light of corporal life. These are the dreams most remembered also. Beyond this, there are experiences, but seldom recalled, in which the usual identification of your consciousness with physical life orientation is gone. Images as you think of them are based upon your own neurological structure and your interpretations of these. When you consider survival after death, for instance, you imagine all the senses fully operating, though perhaps in a non-physical body. Perception without images seems impossible in that context. Yet in some dream situations, you enter a state of awareness quite divorced from that kind of sense data. Images as such are not involved, though later they may be manufactured unconsciously for the sake of translation. In those conditions, you come close to an understanding of what your consciousness is when it is not physically oriented at all. In your daily life, You may suddenly know something without knowing how you know, without being aware of any particular image or sense impression. The knowledge is simply there. This kind of activity approaches the sort of knowing of your own consciousness when it is uninvolved with any kind of ordinary sense stimuli. It simply knows. In those certain dream states, then, you know in the same fashion. You experience your being unallied with flesh. That kind of dream awareness can literally regenerate your life, though the original impact will be forgotten, and the entire event will usually be translated into images before awakening. Such dream events may be called experiences of basic being. During them, the self or consciousness literally travels to the source of its own energy. On another level, atoms possess this same kind of knowing. It may seem that such comprehensions have little to do with your daily life, particularly since they are so seldom recalled, and then only in translation. Yet they provide you with additional energy, and when you need it most. In periods of stress, the physically attuned consciousness will often momentarily forsake its usual orientation and let itself fall back, as it were, into the source of its own being, where it knows it will be regenerated and indeed reborn. While you are physically connected, you must interpret experience in sense terms, even that in dreams. At times your consciousness can range into other areas, but then the events must be physically translated in some way. In waking life, you perceive only certain portions of events that fall within your space-time continuum. In dreams, you may have a greater glimpse. You may, for example, see in the past, present, and future objects that in your time will take up any given space. Often such a dream will be considered meaningless because of your fact level. Past, present, and future objects cannot appear at once in the same place. The space is not the same or identical in any case. It only appears to be so to you. Space itself accelerates in ways that you do not understand. You are not tuned into those frequencies. Any point in space is also a point in what you think of as time, a doorway that you have not learned to open. In somewhat the same manner, your physical brain is a doorway that triggers activity in your mind. Your beliefs then are largely responsible for the areas of the brain that you activate and for the resulting non-physical action of the mind. Physical focus provides you with a magnificent reality, intent and specialized. Were it not for dream activity, however, you would be, relatively speaking, enclosed within it, afraid to try out new concepts and intuitive realizations in the face of what seems to be such rock-bed reality. The dream state provides you with a preliminary stage in which working hypotheses can be creatively formed and tried out in a context of playfulness. Still, the dreams that you have and recall, and the resulting solution of many problems, represent only the surface layer of dream activity. To follow yourself into your own dreams is a fascinating endeavor, and there in the dream context you can become aware of the working of your own consciousness. To do so you must believe in the integrity of your own being. If you do not trust your waking self, you will not trust your dreaming self, and the landscape of your dreams will appear threatening. Your belief that dreams are unpleasant can make them so, or at best you will only remember frightening dream events. If you believe that you do not dream, however, you will inhibit memory of them, but you will still dream. Those rich experiences will not form a part of your conscious life because of your belief. Your dreams are private, as your waking life is, and yet there is a mass waking experience and a mass dreaming experience in which each individual finds his or her own place and accepts or rejects events. In your terms, the race at any given time simultaneously works out problems in the dream state, and those solutions are then physically materialized. Because there is more freedom from time and space in the dream state, there is greater overall perspective. Many solutions that may appear poor in the short range, as they are physically activated, will in the longer range be seen as highly creative. Both privately and in mass, then, mankind utilizes the dream world as a preliminary working ground. From these fantasized realities and probable dream events come all the physically accepted facts in your world of true and false. Probable events experienced dream-wise and quite valid in other areas of reality become, say, false in your world, while the same kind of event physically actualized becomes true. Your wars are fought, lost, or won in the dream world first of all, and your physical rendition of history follows the thin line of only one series of probabilities. To you, a given war was either lost or won by a particular side. In your skimpy comprehension of events, there can be only one definite outcome of a battle, for instance. There will be certain hard facts, a fight with so many people involved, occurring on a particular day at a given place, culminating in a definite victory. Historically, there will be treaties signed, yet in far greater terms, you are perceiving but one small dimension or one corner of a much larger happening that quite transcends your ideas of the times or places involved. The initial battle, so to speak, took place on a dream level. Then privately and in mass, the race decided which portions of the event to actualize in physical terms. Even in those recognized terms, however, it is quite apparent that the victor is often the loser. The entire event transcends any true or false judgments. An entire event, with all of its probabilities included, obviously cannot fit within your current frame of reference. Again, in your dreams, you work with probabilities and decide which ones will become your physical true facts. Here you have great freedom both individually and as a race. Here each man works out his own destiny, and with the use of this dream information quite consciously chooses which episodes he will physically materialize and experience. You will accept from your dreams that information that largely agrees with your waking conscious beliefs. There is interaction, as mentioned previously, in which new beliefs are tried out, so to speak. In that regard, you are not at the mercy of your dreams in any meaning of the word. You have not understood the great give and take that exists between waking and dream experience. You have been taught to believe in the existence of an artificial barrier between the two that does not in fact exist. By suggesting before sleep that solutions to problems be given you, you automatically began to utilize your dream knowledge to a greater extent and to open the doors to your own greater creativity. Your mother, okay, let me read this. Seth caught me. Let me read this. I wanted book work to continue, yet I was sure that his unexpected digression would also be interesting. It was, very much so. In material covering several pages, he discussed my mother and her recent experiences with probabilities in her advanced old age. The complicated family situation involving Mother Butts isn't gone into here, but Jane and I decided to include the more generalized parts of Seth's information. We think it will help others in their relationships with old people. Now here's words. Your mother is experiencing a mental and intuitive acceleration, a barrage of stimuli hereto withheld. She is perceiving probabilities quite clearly, but confusing them with the physical world of facts. This is only being done when her physical work is finished, not, for example, when disorientation could disrupt any necessary, important physical purposes of her own. There are definite material changes. The portions of the brain not used during highly focused physical life are turned on, as they also are in infancy and in certain stages of adolescence. The changes are triggered in each person individually. I said probabilities. Dang, got that thing started again. Ugh. I said probabilities were realized, and she is suddenly open to her imagined events as actualities. Because you are space-time oriented, her realizations accepted momentarily as physical reality cause gaps in what you think of as normal experience. She must experience such events in your time series where to others they do not fit. I am giving you this material not only because of your personal concern, but for its general application. The grappling with probabilities enables your mother to judge the circumstances of her physical life and to program herself ahead of time, so to speak, for her next adventure. Her very actions are serving as learning patterns for the entire family. Despite appearances, there is not a dulling of sense impressions on her part, but an infusion. The difficulty in concentrating does result from this, but then she is concentrating elsewhere. Her feelings of independence are reincited, and will at last lead her to want to leave the family in general, not to cling to her boys, my 2 brothers and myself, and they will also serve as an impetus to growth on her part not realized earlier. She will finally want to be independent of her body, but she is not cowering, she is struggling to free herself. There is much more. In one way, the family's treatment of her like a child is accepted, for it provides the thrust for independence in the same way that a child wants to grow up and leave the house. So your mother's independence is aroused. In a way, she wants to be free of the house of life that she has literally formed, to find a new endeavor, to begin anew. In a teenager, her remarks would seem legitimate. She also wants to begin a new life now. That is the end of that. I hope that your mind is set somewhere at rest. You may end the session or take a break as you prefer. My heartiest regards to you both and a fond good evening. And I will end it there.